Hey guys, here is a video just explaining my top 5, the words of wisdom that I had put on this page. These are the top 5 things that I would literally tell any educator that they need to do or kind of remember, whether you've been teaching for 20, 30 years or you're a new teacher. So I'm just going to go over them and then explain them a little bit and kind of give you some tidbits as well. So the first one I put on there, and this holds true to any grade level, any content, but essentially, it's easier to start off with a much higher structure in your classroom. Start off day one, like these are the expectations, these are the consequences if you don't meet those expectations. Really hold them accountable early on, because as the year goes along and maybe you can give the kids a little bit more freedom, it's easier to loosen up their reins and it's a lot harder to kind of reel them back in. So just make sure you've really thought about your expectations for students, especially at the beginning of the year, that you roll it out day one. This is how we act in this classroom. These are the procedures that we have, whatever it may be, because it's a lot easier to start off strong in that way than it is to be like, oh, I really should have been harder on them because now I'm seeing a lot of behaviors later on. It's a lot harder to reel them back in. So that's number one. Number two, it kind of goes along the same lines, but don't power struggle with your kids. I have seen this far too much. I'm guilty of this a time or two when kids, especially kids nowadays, they're so good at arguing and trying to manipulate or even gaslight you into thinking something. And so they're trying to get you to argue back with them and to struggle with them. And in the moment, again, I'm guilty of this. It's not always the easiest for you to see, but you honestly do have all the power. You are the adult in this situation. So like no matter what they're doing, like control what you can control, and don't power struggle with a kid and handle it like the adult in the classroom. Okay, number 3 is essentially like you can learn something from anybody. And I'm specifically talking about coworkers when I put this on here, but really kids too. Don't feel like you know enough that you don't need help from anybody, or don't be too proud to work with somebody because you don't think that they could help you, or maybe they're not in your content grade level, whatever it may be. Like reach out, be a collaborative team member, and really, and I mean, I'm guilty of this too, but you can learn something from anybody. So whether it's the new teacher that's in your building and you're like, wow, they're fresh out of college, like what can I learn from them? Well, they're coming to like your building, your district with a wealth of knowledge that is more specific to like kids these days. They have so many new resources that they've been taught about or techniques based on today's students. And then likewise, if there's somebody that's been in your building for 20, 30 years and you feel like you can't learn anything from them because they've just been doing it forever, well, that's not true. Everybody has their strengths and everybody has their weaknesses. And honestly, I'll say this a million times, but I believe that together we are better. So never be too proud to work with anybody, even if you don't think that they can help you with something. Like be that open coworker to them, and maybe you weren't meant to learn anything from them. Maybe they were meant to learn something from you, but you guys were able to work together. Number 4 is, and this is a big one. When I was a first and second year teacher, I literally graded everything, and I put in so much extra time doing that, and so that's a big one to just think, like keep in mind. That you don't have to grade everything that your students give you. I always tell my students now, like there are practice assignments or activities, and then there are performance. And so the performance always gets graded. So the formative assessments, summative assessments, maybe a writing prompt, whatever it may be. But there's a lot of my assignments that are just practice, and I don't grade a lot of things because, and I'll always tell the kids, you are going to have this performance assessment. It could be something as simple as, we're going to write a race paragraph at the end of the week. So everything that we're doing up to that point is practice, and we're practicing race. We're practicing like all of the things that go into that so that when they actually do the performance, they do well on it. And kids, believe it or not, actually respond really well to that. There will be some kids that obviously want everything to be graded, but if you preface it that way, I feel like more times than not, students understand. And lastly, number 5. Number 5 is, honestly, I put this on here because I am a planner. I love putting things together, love organizing them. Like, it takes me so long to pick out my planner at the beginning of every school year because that is how my mind operates. But I have found throughout my years in teaching that it is really good to have a plan, like that you actually have something in place where you know what you're supposed to be doing, you have the whole scope and sequence. However, if you have a good plan, I believe, and I've seen it in my own classroom, it allows you to actually be more flexible. If you know where you're going, if you have everything put together, then it allows you more of that flexibility in ways that you wouldn't even imagine or couldn't even foresee. For example, right now my kids are doing a unit, and I had the whole unit planned out, but I had a couple of classes, to be honest, that were just taking longer at doing some of the activities or assignments. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing. To be honest, one of the classes that was taking the longest was my honors class, and it was because we were having such good discussions. But I knew, like, where we were going. I knew, like, how long we had to get there, all of this stuff. And so I was able to give those classes the flexibility that they needed to get to where they needed to go because I already knew what the plan was and what it looked like. And this goes for if you have students that maybe are struggling in your class as well. If you have a plan set out and what you want to happen at the end of the unit, or you know what your structure is in place, then you can play with it a little bit so that you can make sure you meet the needs of all of your students. And so that's why that's my number 5. I am a planner, but I have learned that there's obviously a lot of room for flexibility, especially with dealing with kids. But if you have a really good plan, then you can actually be more flexible. I hope this video helped and kind of explained things just a little bit more for you guys. If you have any questions or you want me to elaborate a little bit more, always just go ahead and contact me, and then I will get back to you as soon as I can. Or if I need to put out another video, maybe with some more tips and tricks, get a hold of me, let me know that too, and I will be happy to do that.